Conventional finance, they define risk and safe investments as two separate things. In CS, that's a strategic error. Risk is not a binary here, it's a spectrum. It's a spectrum that's defined by a few key mechanisms: supply, price floors and ceilings, patch notes, and community sentiment. Treating the market as pure speculation, like you might think, is how you lose, or even your safe plays are built off of some amount of speculation. We're not going to be taking, risks on plays that could 100x. We're going to find positions where the downside is capped by the mechanics of the game, and the upside is a function of patience and not hype. This is how you engineer a portfolio for a non-traditional asset. Now, your first and most important mechanism is allocation. A common failure is capital paralysis. And that's either when you go all in on something and all in at the same time, which doesn't allow you to make plays elsewhere that might manifest while you're holding this one, going all in on a volatile speculation, which means you can't take it out as easily, or parking all of your money into a stagnant asset. So your model is simple: 70% core, 30% speculation. The logic is counterintuitive. 70% is not for explosive growth. The purpose of the 70% is to fund your higher conviction, higher risk 30% plays if those go to shit. That way you can fund these speculative plays without even touching your initial capital. The 30% portion, that can go to zero. But the 70% makes that 30% going to zero a setback and not a complete end to your journey. So now, you're not just buying skins. You're acquiring exposure into different mechanisms that house the CS2 market. Your safer plays, or 70%, that's going to come from plays that are the most visible and least ambiguous in terms of the mechanisms Valve uses. Two mechanisms govern the core, the first of which being the supply. An active case or an active skin in the pool, those are depreciating assets. A discontinued case or skin is going to be an appreciating asset. You stack that with a growing player base, and even the ugliest skins in the lowest tiers of discontinued collections are going up based on mathematics, not sentiment. The moment Valve discontinues a case, supply freezes. Every case opened after that reduces total supply. Now the second is going to be your price floors and ceilings, but to a way lesser extent. Valve's two-pronged system ensures that there's a relationship between all of the skins within one specific collection. The price of a red within a collection must be less than the sum of 10 of pinks in that collection. Otherwise, no one would buy the red. They would just buy 10 pinks, do the trade up. So this creates a guaranteed floor for the 10 pinks. Now the floor of that pink is determined based on the red's price and overall sentiment within the community. But as long as that one stays relatively stable, so will your pinks. If the M4 Fade is $500, for example, the Glock Axia is not going to be any less than $50. Otherwise, you would just take 10 Glock Axias, trade them up, and get a $500 skin. So now your downside is protected by a price floor implemented by Valve. So now your safe investments aren't just a feeling, or because they're grounded in, time spans that are long and, show that they're worth it. It's now defined by a checklist. Is supply shut off or likely to shut off soon? Is there a trade-up floor in place? If your answer is yes to either of those questions, now you have a play with defined risk, and your only variable is time. Which brings us to our first actionable play, the Armory. With Valve discontinuing the graphic design collection, we now have confirmation and signals that the Armory will be a rotating, curated store by the community. Which ones will be discontinued is speculative, but of course we can make a more educated guess. The next logical candidate to be removed from the sticker side is the Elemental Craft collection. This is a play on the supply. With the addition of the sticker slabs, a sticker's value is not just in scarcity, but in its use cases. A good metric to use is applications per dollar. The total number of stickers applied divided by its current price on the market. The higher a number is, the more it reflects strong organic demand that isn't necessarily reflected in its price yet. One which caught my eye was the Scorch Loop sticker, which is a blue. There's a Scorch Loop and a Scorch Loop inverse, which makes no sense considering you can just rotate stickers in CS now. Yet the one that's upright is way more than the one that's inversed. This is a classic inefficiency in the market, and if the Scorch Loop becomes too expensive, people will opt for its substitute, the one that's flipped. So thus, the inverse sticker has a higher room to run once this continuation happens. One based off community sentiment would be the Rainbow Route Hollow, which is already pretty expensive, so it may be best chasing these by redeeming the collection, as well as the Bolt stickers. There is one, I forget the name and the shape of it, but it is more underpriced relative to the others considering they all have pretty much equal application rates. We also have these skins, so consider this more complex play. All three collections for skins right now, if you're watching this video today, are severely underpriced due to a dump from the recent update in which I guess the Armory was anticipated to have changed, which it didn't. We're going to look within the Train 2025 collection, and I can't believe I missed this. I truly can't believe I missed this. The Tec-9 Whiteout, which I have spoke before, but what I hadn't realized is that the float range is 0.06 to 1, and not the typical 0.06 to 0.8 like you see in most whiteouts and float capped skins of this nature. This is abnormal and better for us right now. When your float cap is 0.06 to 0.8, it's actually easier to trade up to and get a factory new variant. When it's 0.06 to 1, that range is higher, which makes the Tec-9 itself better for trade ups, but not better to be traded up to. So the prices on the full float ranged blues within the Train 2025 collection, the Glock Green Line and the UMP 45 Late Night Transit, severely underpriced. Considering there's 3 purples within the Train 2025 collection, even if you take 10 of these blues and trade them up, you're not guaranteed the Tec-9. This is a pure lottery for people trying to do the trade-ups. So they're going to need inputs, and you can buy them. These ingredients, the UMP and the Glock, are going to become critically scarce in due time. This is a play on scarcity, and because of the mechanics of the trade-up system. So not only can you sell these on hype if your float does not meet the criteria, but you can hold the low float Glocks and UMPs, and they will become extremely valuable. In this market, your safest edge is information and knowing more than the person next to you. And since this market is still not fully fleshed out yet, we are very early in its life cycle, this is a huge edge to have. And usually all it requires is a few Google searches and writing some stuff down. If you want to get the Glock or UMP for cheap, I suggest using You UUSkins, today's sponsor. You UUSkins offers direct marketplace access to Chinese sellers. Prices range from 15 to up to 40% off the current prices on Steam, and up to 10 to 15% less than third-party marketplaces that only operate within the West. With this tool, if you are not using it, you are missing out on being up 15% just by starting a position. In a market full of opportunity, there is only one website to be using to purchase your skins, and that is UU. Feel free to click the QR code on the screen to sign up today and see the prices for yourself. Now, we enter into the speculative zone, or 30% of your capital. And here is where we engage with Valve's signaling, updates, patch notes, and potential shocks to the system like we saw with the knife trade-up update. These are not safe, these are based on probability. However, we can find the highest probability plays that give us the best chance to increase our positions. The first one, which I briefly spoke about yesterday, is a long-term precedent play, the limited edition items. After 4 cycles currently, we now have a purple, 2 pinks, and a red. The pattern from every other collection class in the game suggests that there will be a blue in due time. Maybe for 5, 10 stars, who knows. Once a lower rarity blue enters, and supply of that will be, much higher compared to the red or pink, that would theoretically open up a system in which trade-ups would be viable. So we're not betting on a rumor here, we're betting on patterns that Valve does and has done before, and speculating that they will do the same thing they've done for the last 12 years. Not only that, the addition of the knife trade-up only further hammers home that precedent, and if a knife or gloves get added to the Armory, like people have been saying, then it becomes way more of a potential reality than I think you think it is. It's a logical, but right now uncertain, next step. This is a bet on Valve's habits. The second speculative zone is going to be the active drop pool cases and collections that have seen a relatively large amount of activity considering what we've been used to in CSGO. With Valve now handing the keys to the Armory to the community for creating skins, Valve has no way to create items themselves, which may suggest they're starting to focus their efforts on the active drop pool collections. Right, we just got 2 last week, Harlequin and Achroma. The signal is accumulation patterns that are odd considering the nature of these items by Chinese buyers. Right, they're very, very good and have very good coincidental timing with buying shit right before it gets discontinued, so we are not going to ignore any play they make from now on. Large volumes of these low demand depreciating skins by investors from these new collections like Radiant and Ascent may indicate they're anticipating scarcity. So this is pure speculation based on market supply. They're betting that Valve will close that valve for the supply sooner than you may expect, and sooner than what you've been used to. That Dust 2 collection's been in the game for fucking 50,000 years. And also, we can look at floats. Even with the collections active, the M4 Stratosphere, the AK Nouveau Rouge, and the AUK Green Energy, the pinks or highest tier within these collections, have stagnated and have stayed relatively stable over the last few months. in factory new. And that's because to trade up to them is extremely hard. You need to search for these outright, and people aren't doing trade ups, or you need to get it from a drop. And with Inferno and Nuke being taken out, I think some people are more now looking at the supply here and not just dumping, making it depreciate. They're pricing in the potential of it getting discontinued in the future sometime. And this would be the first time in which a collection would be rotated regularly. So this is an extremely risky play. If one does get rotated out, then investing in the next active job pool collections will be beneficial, albeit less in terms of magnitude. But we have seen Chinese accounts accumulate in Midnight Laminate, AK-47, and a lot of the skins from that collection, the Ascent collection. Finally, gloves. They have a reputation of being volatile because of their involvement with a lot of Chinese buying groups. We can find their next play by looking at the generational supply. First generation gloves come from two cases, Hydra and Glove. Both are very expensive to open, which hurts the amount of incoming supply. Even when gloves do enter, they're not going to be higher float typically because of case opening odds, as well as trade-up fillers. Gloves have a 0.06 to 0.8 range, like we were talking about with the Tec-9, which makes them extremely hard to trade up to. The second generation comes from Clutch and Revolution. Revolution is still active, but with changes happening to cases, that could soon change. Third comes from 3, Broken Fang, Snake UBs, and Recoil. So while Recoil is anticipated to be the next discontinued case if they do one at a time, the second generation only has 2 cases, which is why we may have seen increased interest by Chinese groups as they're starting to purchase some of these in a decent amount of. So the trade up route, we know the mechanism there, which hurts incoming supply. The second part is a little bit more speculative, right? We're relying on that case being discontinued and supply being relatively low once it is discontinued. The first generation has too much downside. If you do want exposure to that case, consider buying the fillers and not the gloves themselves. And that completes your engine. Your 70% core, which is built on all but guaranteed Armory rotations, price floors, and mechanics of trade-ups, those will appreciate steadily. You could take periodic profit, rotate, or just scrape off profits off the top and move into other plays, diversifying yourself. That profit is going to also fund your 30% sleeve, which are more or less based on pure speculation and thus have a higher risk of going to zero. Your goal is not one home run. Your riskiest plays are going to be funded by your non-risky plays, which are all but guaranteed to go up with time. So now your system is not based on pure speculation. It's relying on one principle and one principle alone, and that is interpreting Valve's actions not as random updates, but as adjustments to a live economic marketplace. Your edge is modeling your machine to do better than the market. This model has a vulnerability. It is, of course, assuming that Valve wants to have a stable economy. What if an update comes out that fucks you over? What if an update comes out that completely changes the landscape of the market? Like the knife trade-up update. However, we have learned now from then to keep assets outside of just knives and maybe diversify a little bit more. So by having your assets spread across, you're relatively safe now compared to where you were a few months ago. But we cannot take into account Valve implementing a random crazy update. So we'll just monitor that frontier for now, and we'll see how Valve's future updates either hinder or help the market. Until then, the machine's waiting. Thank you for watching. Peace.